Hey everyone, my name is Waylon Lewis. As you probably know, I'm the founder of Elephant Journal, and we're here in my house in Boulder, Colorado with a fellow Boulderite.
Yes.
And what's your name? Anya Hoth?
Anya, yes.
Yeah. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah. So I don't want to sound like old people everywhere, but how old are you and why are you here? What do you want to talk about?
Okay, I'm 18 and I would like to talk about the potency of changing our actions to help the climate in this dire and this gloomy, doomy time.
Yeah. Everyone's kind of depressed. We don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. We kind of hope the president or the king or the emperor of the universe takes care of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of us do things like you and me in our own life. Mm-hmm. But often we hear that doing things is sort of pointless and kind of like, this is something this is something I've written against actually. Saying like it kind of lets Exxon and the big companies off the hook if we think we need to do something.
It's everyone working together that really needs to happen.
Right.
You need to think wide scale and say, hey, it's not just Boulder working on this problem. It's all the counties in Denver, all the counties outside of Denver, Broomfield, Aurora, all over the state and all over the country, the world. Like we need to start thinking and using each other's ideas.
You know, something that I always like find really inspiring. So I grew up Buddhist, and we vow to be a benefit to all sentient beings. Mm-hmm. And whenever you watch one of those movies from Universal, they show the world turning and it's lighting up bit by bit as it goes. And I'm always like, that's what needs to happen. Like just what you were saying, like one person being kind to an animal, one person, what are some environmental actions that you enjoy? I've read your articles on elephants, so I kind of know, but maybe tell people what inspires you? Like, what's actually fun for you to do that's also caring?
So in the summers and when it's a little bit warmer out, I usually like to bike to school, to wherever I'm going, and it's really fun to look at all the different bike paths in Boulder. We have so many bike paths that we have access to for transportation, and so many buses that work for CU students. Like, lots of cool stuff out there in Boulder. So transportation, as I said in my article, is one of my go-tos. Yeah,
and we'll link the article once it's up on Elephant. This video is up there. So, and even if you live in a place with bad bike paths or lack of good bike paths or protected bike lanes, if you do bike and you can be defensive and careful and you can inspire other people, before you know it, you will get more bike lanes. That's just kind of how I used to bike in Boston, which is infamous. Like Boston is the worst, like drivers, everyone makes fun of the drivers in Boston who lives in Boston. And I would bike and it would be no problem. You just have to take side roads and be safe. And now you go back to Boston and it's kind of amazing. Like there's bike paths everywhere and like it's really changed. It's inspiring. Things can change.
For sure. If you're the one person to start, just start there and say, hey, I do this. What do you do? Like use each other's ideas and each other's perspectives to gain new ideas on these issues like climate change and like poor transportation services. We be the one to lead the way. I mean, it's hard in some ways to like do this repetitively, but the more you get in the habit, the easier it gets. And I feel like that shows up for even shopping too. For me, like
Well, you in one of your articles you wrote about like with a friend you went to Simply Bulk, which was like a bulk food store, so you could not get plastic with your food because everything's in plastic now. Anytime I watch like a 1950s movie or 40s, I'm like, there's no plastic, like almost anywhere. Like it's, and they had their own problems, like tons of racism and sexism and homophobia and nuclear threats. But so it's important not to idealize any period. But at the same time, you can say, oh, a world can't function without single-use plastic waste. And why is plastic something we want to avoid?
Plastic is a substance that's very hard to break down. So different from PLA7, which is compostable cornstarch that's formed into a plastic-like looking substance. The real plastic,
like the corn cups you drink
5, numbers for recycling, are really harmful because they don't break down, and they actually, when they do break down, they form microplastics, which are these little tiny, like even subatomic pieces of plastic that are floating in our oceans that are getting into our animals, like
into
us, into what we eat. It's all of the food chain.
I was at farmer's market, like right before it ended, and some lady is like trying to give me a plastic bag, and I'm like, no, thank you, I brought my own bag. And she's like, oh, don't worry, it's biodegradable, and I'm like, okay. You don't want plastic to biodegrade. That's like the problem It's also a problem that it doesn't really degrade ever. It just splits into little pieces. And biodegradable is a bad word. If you ever hear that, you don't want it. Compostable is the word you want.
But you
and
want
even
it,
that's complex.
You want it, as you said, it's complex to have even the word compost or
Yeah.
compostable, because some people just slap that label on things, and if it's not BPI certified,
Yeah.
it means it doesn't really compost, like, or it composts differently,
Yeah.
or it's not, like, a lot of BPI plastics, people get concerned, they're like, we don't really compost in Boulder anymore, these plastics, because they're supposed to stay out, because we just want food waste in our compost. And I'm like, yeah, like, what should we do with these things anymore? And I say, still, like, you follow the guidelines and put them in the trash, but still know that they will break down. That's the point. They will break down eventually.
Yeah.
And so even if it's like takes a long time for it to get to the right temperature and
It could
stuff.
take 40 years.
Yeah.
If it's not
It will
processed
still
properly,
break down,
it
though.
will.
Yeah, but plastics is different.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a piece of plastic break down yet.
And
Ever.
everyone should know, I think as of like yesterday, it was the first time I've ever seen it actually declared. The oceans now officially have more plastic in the oceans than fish by weight. And we wind up eating that. Everything, fish, whales, etc., bears are already dying, birds, because they eat so much plastic they feel full, but then they starve to death.
Yeah.
We have like 3 credit cards or something in our body
Scary.
of plastic. Maybe it's 1 a week or something. So without getting too into the weeds, which we're kind of doing, because you and I could rap about this forever.
We can go on forever, yeah. We can get out of that.
Which, no, I think that's great, and it's fun for people who are inspired, for the choir.
Yeah.
But for people who kind of don't give a care, you're 18, you've been inspired about this stuff since I've known you, which is...
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, like probably 10 years. I know your dad. So, what kind of inspired you? Like, how can other people get inspired in the way you are? Because a lot of people say, here's one thing I get really irritated about old people saying. Oh, the next generation, they'll take care of everything.
Oh, I've heard that.
But you're actually rare. Like 99% of kids who I know don't care either. So it's really, we cannot fob off the responsibility we have for destroying or healing our planet onto you guys. But you guys also need to get inspired.
Can't do the same thing, yeah.
So where does that inspiration come from? Because you obviously enjoy it in the way I do. Like, it's not all a drag.
Yeah.
We get sad, but it's mostly pretty inspiring.
I think it's like more like acceptance kind of oriented, because I feel like with climate I've had to accept the facts that this is a big issue that I'm not going to solve on my own, or not going to solve even if I have this much passion.
Yeah.
Even if I don't. I mean, like, it's scary looking at the problem. So I think you have to take little steps. Little by little by little.
Yeah.
If you choose one zero waste strategy per week, for
Right.
example, or
So,
even per month.
Real
Like-
quick, explain what zero waste is, because not everyone will know.
Okay, so zero waste is basically thinking outside of the realm of plastic and hard to recycle materials, or like any materials that really don't have a purpose of reuse. So it is.
And what are the 6 R's? You wrote about that in your article.
Okay, so
I love this,
I
and they're
love
in
those.
order.
Oh man, I don't know if I can do them in order right now.
Well, but just
like,
think about it. So it's basically like you refuse first, right?
reuse, reduce, recycle.
Isn't refuse one of them? Like, you don't
Yeah.
want something
Yeah.
new unless you don't need it.
Refuse,
Unless you
return,
need it.
repair.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's so neat. There's so many R's you could think of to like.
Yeah.
But just choose one little strategy.
Yeah.
And then look it up. It's so easy. We have the web right in front of us.
Right.
I mean, like, you can ask any question, like, how do you make your own bird feeder? To, like, something that you're interested in. Tie it with the interest. If you're interested in something outside of it, like outside of the eco realm, say, like, oh, I like biking.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, why don't I choose to ride to school 2 times a week instead of driving? Literally, you get your bike stuff on, you change your schedule a little bit, and right there, you're making a difference.
And half the time, I find, I don't know about you, but when I bike somewhere, I either tie or am barely slower or am barely faster than my friends who are doing the exact same route.
Yeah.
Well, a different route on roads, but same timing in a car.
Oh yeah, for
For
sure.
years, we would kind of like race with friends just to see.
Even not on an electric bike. I don't use electric
That's what
bikes
I'm
at all,
saying.
and I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, you can ride really fast, get your muscles strong, feel strong in your body.
Yeah.
Even if you don't feel like, oh, this is like, do I really have to bike today? But if it's in summer, you're like, yeah, let's get it. Or if you're in winter, it's like, let's take the bus. Like, I know it takes a little bit longer for my schedule, but why not just try a new experience? Like, try something out that I haven't done before. And
So-
it's getting past the ease. It's
Right.
getting past the easy thing to do, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, I do. Once you fall in love with it, like biking, I like friends will be like, "Hey, I'm going to this restaurant anyway. I'm driving. Let me just give you a ride." People
Carpool,
always
yeah.
want to give me a ride. Yeah, carpooling is great, but I'm always like, "Nah, I'll bike." It's like almost more fun
Yeah, it's
once
a
you
habit.
get into it.
It's a habit, yeah.
So, also on biking, I remember when I was in junior high at Casey, because I grew up here.
Wow, cool.
Biking with my best friend from our homes to school
hill.
and back. Yeah, but it was like the most like mental health half hour
Yes,
of my day. Like, because I actually did really well in school academically. I had tons of friends when I was young, tons of friends when I was old. But in the middle, in junior high, I got bullied a lot because I had skipped a grade. I was small. I couldn't play sports because I was small. And I was straight A student. And I was Buddhist. And I was really nice. And I didn't know how to swear. So, you know, all that was a recipe for getting bullied.
Yeah.
And if not for biking that half hour or 20 minutes or whatever, you know, from school to school, I honestly would have been really depressed.
It's your saving grace. I feel like the exercise that comes with that, and even different strategies, like going to the grocery store, you finally feel okay buying less. Finally feel okay buying in jars that are glass instead of plastic bags. You finally feel okay making your own granola.
Yeah.
When you buy zero waste from the store in bulk, and you put it into your pan, not buying big plastic bags, like not big plastic bags to get your ingredients.
But when you buy in bulk, you can
store,
get a huge bag.
amount,
And people often say, oh, this stuff is expensive. Like, biking's obviously free or cheaper. Bulk is super cheap. And making your own stuff, granola or whatever, right?
Yeah, I actually just did that with my grandmother yesterday.
Oh, I love that.
She lives in Boulder now, and I feel very blessed to have so much family around me, but I also see the impacts of, like, their habits and their behaviors, and I have really pushed into that and said, this is what's right, this is what you could do differently, this is what I think is right for the planet, this is why I think that, and really explaining that process and learning more about, like, why I should take certain actions. I'm going to actually call it ecocycle right now, because ecocycle has led me through this whole zero waste journey beautifully. Like, from kindergarten, I had zero waste help, all the way throughout my whole education. I'm a senior in high school, so I'm like, this eco help has really taught me a lot about why this is so important, and getting this habit in my this routine in my inventory, and showing people that this is really important because it's our future, like everyone's future. Even if you're gonna die sooner than me, why do I care? We're all living on the same planet. Right. We all have responsibilities, you know.
So tell people what ecocycle is, because it's amazing.
So ecocycle is a nonprofit based in Boulder. And they are on 64 Arapahoe, right, like near Street Side, the dance studio, and like they're really great because they have a zero waste kind of approach to school education. They're all over Boulder. They take our trash recycling on Pearl and wants to be compost, but they are starting compost back in public schools, like Boulder High School. So cool. I always find that awesome. And I'm so proud of them for, like, sticking to it. Because I was one of the people who were like, I want a compost back. I want a compost back. And
so you're referring to, we lost the ability to compost.
In Boulder Valley School District, we did lose
Well, in all of Boulder. And Fort Collins, Denver. Because the company basically gave up. So, and it wasn't the company's fault.
It's A1 Organics.
Yeah, but so many of us would throw plastic in the compost
not thinking it's gonna.
And then they'd take the compost to the farmers. The farmers would be like, we can't use this.
Also, the other problem I found with that was that farmers were seeing scraps of metal that would hurt people working in that compost industry. And so I was like, this is why we have to think about what we put in this compost will be in our soils. It will be in our lives forever.
Right.
And so if we put a banana peel with a sticker on, like, that sticker will be in our soil if we don't take it off. Like, thinking that way is just like what I try to do. Because do we want our trees to grow with lots of micronutrients in the soil? Yes. That means we have to have healthy soils that have compost in them. So
good for you.
That's my little motto on that. But like, I learned about carbon farming and like the importance of that.
Carbon farming is putting
the Marine Carbon Farming Project based out of California. They have they started the largest scale composting project like I would say ever, but like that's and they apply 1/4 inch of compost onto soils of farmland, like healthy soils, and it reduces 3 times the amount of carbon than a normal soil would with this compost on top.
And for people who maybe aren't paying attention fully, carbon is what is too much carbon.
CO2
is what's creating climate crisis.
Yeah, CO2 is a climate crisis. Where that's what comes out of our cars, that's what comes out of our trains, that's what comes out of everything that we do, like fracking, that's what they're drilling into the earth to pull out those to make petroleum, which is of course like the key to plastic. So I mean, we know that the fossil fuel industry is slowly taking hits, but I think that renewable energy is the way to go for sure, because what do you think about that?
Well, what I know is that the fossil fuel industry doesn't really care about anything other than profits. They've shown that. And while they actually are already declining in profits, they're investing and they want to 10x. You probably read this. They want to 10x plastic production to make up for it, because plastic is fossil fuels. It is oil. So that's why we have to resist the plastic thing. So nude foods. Tell me about like going biking to nude foods or Simply Bulk.
It's so fun.
What are a couple tips for avoiding plastic? You know, even for people who aren't lucky enough to have one of those shops, but
yeah, for sure. I'd say just think before you do anything. Think about, is this ethical? Right. Is this okay for me to do? Do I have other options? Can I research other options? Wait, maybe how can I ask someone in the community that has expertise on this how to do this? Like, how can I use this negative thing that I'm seeing, or like this pattern that I don't like, and say, what, is there something different? There probably is. Yeah. So like seeing like in the stores, for example, like produce, all bagged up.
Yeah.
Little string things. I mean, like that could kill a turtle. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Like animals are affected, but like these bags and plastic around produce in nude foods, you don't see any of that.
So nude foods is our local grocery.
Yeah, it's our local grocery store that's zero waste.
Yeah.
Newly started, awesome owner, Verity. Props to her.
Yeah.
And hopefully I get a job.
Yeah.
I'm getting one.
Are you applying there?
Starting. I applied there like 3 months ago, but we don't have to go into that.
Oh, that's so exciting though.
But yeah, I'm finally.
Oh, but I can help out if you haven't got in, because I'm friends with all of them. I don't know if they're hiring or not, but I can put a word in
Verity
for you.
got me a job.
Love Verity.
Saturday, so Sunday.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, my first time working. I'm really excited because the things that I choose to work for are directly related to my passion. Yeah. So I'm not going to work at a restaurant right now. Even if I can make more money. I'm going to work right in nude foods where I can help this process happen.
Yeah. I love that you're saying ethics. I feel like ethics is like the most like unsexy, exciting word for the most exciting thing in the world, which is like being kind and caring and fun.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny, I just bought my first, I'm 49, but I bought my first stock personally ever in my life. Whoa. And I posted about it, and all these people were like, oh, you can make tons of money, invest in Walmart and Amazon, whatever. Yeah. I'm like,
why would I fund those companies?
I'm investing only in companies that I believe in, that I also think will do well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you're like, why do we leave ethics behind so casually? Whether it's plastic on our carrots, which is silly, you know, or bananas or whatever. Or like fruit. You go to Costco, it's fruit. Over everything. It's horrible. Yeah. Or, you know, with our money investing. Because you can find companies, like I was investing in Rivian.
I found 30 plus companies, did my own research.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they're on my website.
Saw that.
2 pages.
Love that.
I mean, like, if you want to go somewhere to reduce your waste, go to Ridwell. Yeah. Number 2, go to EcoCycle.
Well, go to your website.
Go to my website, and they have all the tools.
What's your website? Tell folks.
Help the Planet for All. Yeah. So, it should be on there if you search it up. Also, I have an Instagram, so people can find info on there. Yeah.
So, all right, 2 questions that I think a lot of people out here want to know. One is, there's a ton of parents watching. A lot of parents are like, how in the world do I get my kids to give a care? So, this is sort of the question I asked before, but how did you give a care, or how, if you were a parent in 10 years or 20 years or whatever, how would you get your kids to care? Okay, so number 1, I would change my lifestyle so I have the ability to be a good influence on my kid. I would say, I want to switch to this because this is better. If the kid sees me do this, maybe they'll take it up. But it's their own decision. Don't force it. Yeah. Because that always goes bad. Yeah. Especially with a teenager. Yeah.
but definitely take steps in the right direction, or even ask your kid, like, do you think this would be okay for us? Like, do you think this would be worthwhile? I think this is worthwhile, so we're going to start doing it. If you don't like it, let me know, but this is my opinion and my ideas. And the kid might be like, oh, okay, I really understand that. But, like, what kind of situations are you talking about, like, directly? Because I can address those, too.
I think just, my guess, which I think is pretty accurate because I was a kid once, is that a lot of old people think all the young people care about our environment. But the fact is, like, among your friends, it's probably 10% at most who actually really care, like who kind of go out of their way to live a eco-responsible, mindful life in a fun way. I would say it's probably lower than that.
Oh, by far, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the question is basically, again, it's not in the weeds of the details of plastic or whatever. It's more like, what inspired you to, how did it start? Like,
So I started after an injury, a traumatic injury, and that kind of, like, gave me a perspective. Like, life isn't always going to be there. You can't take life for granted. Like, you can't just expect yourself to do really well and just keep doing well. You have to be ready for the turmoil. The resilience that I have had through all my struggles and hardships has been because I'm like, this is important to me. My health is important to me. Like, many other people's health is important to them. Like, you need to protect the things you want to. And
so
the
is
health relates to the environment. Relates to all the things around us. Spending time in nature. Exercising. Being outdoors. Drinking water. Clean water. Like, so many people don't have access to clean water even. Clean water, clean food, resources. Like, it's so, you have to, like, think beyond, like, oh, this is fine. I'm just eating a bag of chips. Like, oh, throw it in the trash. Like, after. It's like, who knows who made those chips? Who knows where the plants came from? Who knows what the system was above it that was governing this to make it even possible? Like, if you think back to things like what I can do as a parent, I'd say, like, to all those parents out there, I'd say definitely start to change your lifestyle in a way that feels good. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to find, like, oh, that's perfect for me, first try. You have to try it out, see what works for you, see what works for your kids, see what they like. But some of the snacks at New Foods, like this local grocery store, are some of the best snacks I've had because they're pure vegetable chips. They're, like, the best. And I, like, eat them all the time because I'm like, this is good for my body.
Right.
This is good for my brain. This is good for my health. And, like, even if your kids can't see past that, like, oh, I'm just going to eat it because I want to, like, just take a second and say, this is what the food I'll provide for you. It will be healthy. It will be clean. It will be authentic. It won't be, their food will never have been in plastic. Like, that's what I go for sure. My parents haven't come to that yet, and I have struggles with that because I'm like, when I'm older, I will be like this. I will show you, like, exactly how I'll be. Do you want me to? Because I have a whole, like, I'll do a passive solar home, as you know, which is, for those of you in the audience who don't know, it's basically a home that has, like, one, like, roof that's shorter, one roof that's longer, and two sides of it, and it has so many different, like, heated floors by solar. It has water heater heated by solar. It has shades, like, for thermo shades, which control heat inside and outside the house. It has insulation, double insulation. So it's the best place to live in because overall the investments that you put into it will return you, and you'll be making money off of putting your energy back into the solar grid. So that's what I hope to do, even if
other
it's
cool things about passive, I'm sure you know, but you cycle the air through, and so you have really fresh air.
Yeah.
A lot of modern houses, we think it's eco to, like, have a tight envelope, but everything's toxic in that envelope.
Yeah.
And then you don't have natural air coming in. So passive, any house can be passive too. Like, this is obviously takes in a lot of heat and light. But then you have to deal with that, like in the summer. That's why there's there are curtains everywhere.
We actually did a project in my environmental sciences class and sustainability with my favorite teacher at Boulder High, Miss Thompson.
Woo, Miss Thompson.
Yeah, Miss Thompson. She is an awesome lady, but we made our own solar houses with cardboard, glue, sheeting, old plastic bags. She brought in old plastic bags, so we cut them up, use them for windows. Like, we saw how important it is, and we tested it. Using thermometers and see how much sun exposure. We put a light And we're like, okay, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
which house keep as much heat in the winter and which...
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so neat. I learned so much in that project.
One good teacher is amazing.
Oh, it gets you through.
Yeah.
It gets you through high school.
My favorite teacher in Boulder was Mr. Williams. He was at Boulder High until recently. He retired a few years ago.
Yeah.
Probably before your time, but maybe when you're a freshman or something. And yeah, he inspired all of us. We all loved learning, all loved him.
Wonderful.
He was like Robin Williams in Dead
Even
Poets
if you
Society
have
or
just
something.
one
Yeah,
teacher, it makes life so much better.
yeah.
Like my Spanish teacher, who I loved. I feel like language, you have to be an ander, as they say at CU. You have to and. It's a verb. I like to do environmental studies, and I'm a biker, and I'm a hiker, and I love being outdoors, and I play music, and just keep on adding as much as you can. The more different sides of yourself that you incorporate in your life, the happier and better you'll be.
Good for you.
So that's what I believe.
I feel like maybe you should go to school for in college for architecture, passive solar design.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I wish there was a degree in that.
Well, I have a friend who's the passive solar guy in Colorado. I should connect you guys.
We
You
should.
don't know him already.
That'd be fun.
All right, so name one or two super specific things. We've already talked about biking and plastic, but that are eco that everyone can do, that you enjoy doing.
Okay. Bringing a reusable water bottle like
Cool.
this one.
Props.
Just filling it up all day.
What about
saving
clothes?
time.
Do you try to do...
Oh, okay.
Thanks for listening. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. The full conversation is on our indie platform that supports and continues our work, elephantjournal.com/videos. You can subscribe, listen, watch, and participate there. And when you do so, you'll keep these mindful videos and podcasts going. elephantjournal.com/videos. May it be of benefit.